Welcome to Quiz Time. I'm your quiz master, Sean, and I've got 100 questions for you about the USA. So let's see what we know. History, geography, current events, entertainment. What do we know about the USA? Well, let's find out. Which U.S. state had an official law banning the sale of margarine for almost a century? Was it Wisconsin, Ohio, or Texas that banned margarine? Wisconsin banned margarine. It makes sense. Which American city had a major river that caught fire multiple times due to industrial pollution? Was it Detroit, Cleveland, or Pittsburgh? And it was Cleveland. Which U.S. president once got a speeding ticket for riding a horse too fast in Washington, D.C.? Was it Ulysses Grant, Andrew Jackson, or Thomas Jefferson? U.S. Grant was riding his horse too fast and got a ticket. Which U.S. city was dubbed the Cattle Kingdom for its cattle trade in the 19th century? Was it Denver, Kansas City, or Chicago? And the Cattle Kingdom was Kansas City. Which now common household item was originally given away for free inside American soap boxes? Was it towels, dishes, or silverware? It was dishes. Which early U.S. highway was once marked using colored rings painted around telephone poles? Was it Lincoln Highway, the Dixie Highway, or Route 66? It was the Lincoln Highway. Which U.S. city was once secretly planning to become an independent nation in the 19th century? Was it Houston, New York, or Nolens? Nolens was secretly planning to be an independent nation. Which American coin once featured an actual living person instead of a historical figure or national symbol? Was it the quarter, the nickel, or the $50? And it was the $50. Which U.S. town renamed itself multiple times to qualify for free promotions from different businesses? Was it Clark, Buford, or Truth or Consequences? It was Truth or Consequences. Which U.S. landmark was once sold illegally by a con artist multiple times to unsuspecting buyers? Did he sell the Brooklyn Bridge, the Hollywood sign, or Alcatraz? He sold the Brooklyn Bridge several times. Which American president once had a pet alligator living inside the White House for several months? Was it James Madison, Andrew Johnson, or John Quincy Adams? It was John Quincy Adams that had a pet gator. What unusual method did an American town use to deliver mail across a river before bridges? Did they use cannon shots, trained dogs, or carrier pigeons? They shot him across the river by cannon. Which U.S. state still legally allows dueling if both participants are public officials and give consent? Kentucky, Montana, or Georgia? Kentucky still allows that. But don't do it. Which well-known American structure once had an entire apartment hidden inside for private guests? Mount Rushmore, Statue of Liberty, or the Empire State Building? It was the Statue of Liberty. Which unexpected natural event caused the Mississippi River to flow backward for several hours in 1812? Was it a tornado, an earthquake, or a meteor strike? It was an earthquake. That would be bad. Which American city had a massive explosion caused by illegal fireworks stored under a grocery store? Was it Kansas City, Houston, or Los Angeles? It was in Houston. Which odd requirement did early American postal carriers have to follow while delivering mail on horseback? Were they allowed no facial hair, no stopping for water, or no speaking to strangers? They were not allowed facial hair. Which U.S. warship was once disguised as an iceberg to avoid enemy detection during Arctic patrols? Was it the USS Nautilus, USS Albacore, or the USS Cyclops? It was the USS Nautilus. Which unexpected American town was declared a capital of the world in the 1950s by its residents? Was it Los Angeles? Was it Washington? Or was it Louisville? It was Louisville. Which U.S. state capital was once moved to a different city for a single day due to an invasion? Was it Ohio, Virginia, or Pennsylvania? It was the state of Pennsylvania. Which American city once had an underground street network later buried and forgotten for decades? Was it Denver, Seattle, or Chicago? It was the city of Seattle. And how do you forget such a thing? Which unexpected reason led to a U.S. town banning ice cream cones on Sundays for nearly 50 years? Was it church complaints, littering issues, or melting concerns? It was church complaints. Which unusual item was briefly used as currency in parts of the U.S. when paper money ran out? Was it corn? Was it tree bark? Or was it clamshells? It was clamshells. Which rare weather phenomenon once caused parts of the Mississippi River to be covered in frozen waters? Was it an ice tsunami, a frost quake, or a snow hurricane? It was an ice tsunami. Which American president was locked outside the White House because staff didn't recognize him? Was it Harry Truman? Was it Andrew Johnson? Or was it Chester Arthur? Harry Truman! They didn't recognize him. Which unusual U.S. contest involves navigating obstacles while carrying something that must weigh at least 108 pounds? Is it a sack sprint, a partner haul, or a load run? That would be a partner haul. Which famous American landmark was nearly turned into a giant advertising billboard in the 1920s? Was it the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, or the Golden Gate Bridge? It was Mount Rushmore. Which odd reason caused a small American town to experience a rain of golf balls in 1969? Was it a tornado, an airplane accident, or a factory explosion? It was a tornado. Which U.S. military base once housed a top-secret project where soldiers trained pigeons to guide missiles? Was it Fort Bragg, Fort Knox, or Wright-Patterson? It was Wright-Patterson. Which American amusement park once had a ride that required passengers to wear helmets for safety? Was it Six Flags, Action Park, or Disneyland? It was Action Park. Which American town once required men to grow beards or pay a fine during a historic festival celebration? Was it Eureka, Carson City, or Tombstone? It was Tombstone. Which unexpected event caused a famous U.S. bridge to twist and collapse due to wind resonance? Was it the Tacoma Narrows, the Hudson Span, or the Golden Gate? It was the Tacoma Narrows. Which strange American law required citizens to own at least one firearm or face a penalty? Was it Texas in 1805, Idaho in 1852, or Georgia in 1770? It was Georgia in 1770. Which peculiar U.S. town experienced a month of nonstop nighttime due to an atmospheric anomaly? Was it Barrow, Nome, or Fairbanks? It was Barrow, Alaska. Which historic U.S. battle was interrupted by an eclipse, confusing soldiers about whether to continue fighting? Was it the Battle of Antietam, the Battle of Chickamauga, or the Battle of Saratoga? It was the Battle of Chickamauga. Which rare law in an American town made it illegal to eat peanuts while attending a public performance? Was it Massachusetts, Indiana, or Kentucky? It was Kentucky. Which forgotten event led to thousands of American school children receiving polio-contaminated vaccines in 1955? Was it the Salk error, the vaccine disaster, or the Cutter incident? It was the Cutter incident. Which American lake once completely disappeared overnight due to an underground sinkhole draining all its water? Was it Lake Penieur, Lake Tahoe, or Crater Lake? It was Lake Penieur. Which unexpected object fell from the sky over an American town, confusing the residents? Was it frozen iguanas? Was it mystery meat? Or was it coins? Mystery meat fell from the sky. How did it taste? Which unusual method did a U.S. city once use to control its mosquito problem involving unexpected animals? Was it imported bats, trained raccoons, or domesticated foxes? Imported bats. Which American town once practiced a bizarre tradition of electing a king for a day every year? Was it Eureka, Fairbanks, or Dayton? You could be king for a day in Eureka. Which forgotten American invention was once marketed as a way to keep people from drowning in bathtubs? Was it the water helmet, the inflatable pajamas, or the breathing mirror? It was inflatable pajamas. Which bizarre crime prompted a U.S. law against carrying an ice cream cone in your back pocket? Was it horse theft, bank fraud, or train robbery? It's against federal law to prevent horse theft. Which bizarre reason caused an American state to declare war on itself for several weeks in the 1800s? Was it a surveying error, a missing cannon, or a stolen governor's chair? A surveying error. That would do it. What unusual U.S. competition required participants to stand still for hours to win cash? Was it a frozen marathon? Is it a statue contest? Or an endurance stand? It's a statue contest. Which forgotten U.S. law made it illegal to whistle underwater in public swimming pools during the 1930s? Was it California, Illinois, or Ohio? And more importantly, how would you do that? No danger of breaking that law. It was in Illinois. Which American island was home to an infamous pirate haven where lawlessness ruled during the 18th century? Was it Blackbeard's Island? Was it Tortuga? Or was it Long Island? It was Tortuga. Which American city accidentally built a subway system that was never used and remains abandoned underground? Cincinnati, Boston, or Phoenix? That would be Cincinnati. Which unexpected reason caused a famous U.S. lighthouse to be moved inland, brick by brick? Shore erosion, a fault line shift, or military testing? That would be shore erosion. Which U.S. monument was rumored to have hidden rooms with treasures, sparking false rumors? The Statue of Liberty, Mount Rushmore, or the Washington Monument? That would be the Washington Monument. What bizarre reason forced the White House to be completely repainted just 1 year after construction? Was it soot buildup, paint shortage, or an insect infestation? It was soot buildup. Which peculiar job existed in some U.S. cities where workers manually lit and extinguished streetlights nightly? Was that a torchman, a light tender, or a lamp servant? And that would be a light tender. Which American river once caught fire multiple times due to extreme pollution, sparking national environmental action? Was it the Hudson, the Missouri, or the Cuyahoga? It was the Cuyahoga River. What unexpected ingredient was secretly used in U.S. milk products, causing a scandal? Was it chalk dust, wood pulp, or clay powder? They put wood pulp in the milk. Which American town awarded a winner an island in a contest in the early 1900s? Maine, Florida, or Washington? And who won? And do they still have it? Can I buy it? It's in Maine. I'll stay here. Which American skyscraper was secretly designed with a major structural flaw, later fixed without public knowledge? Was it the Willis Tower, the Citicorp Tower, or the Transamerica Pyramid? It was the Citicorp Tower. Which odd event caused thousands of American telephone calls to suddenly connect to the wrong destinations? Was it a solar storm, a satellite failure, or a submarine cable cut? It was a solar storm. Which historic U.S. hotel has an entire room that remains permanently locked due to unexplained incidents? The Stanley Hotel, the Queen Mary, or the Roosevelt Hotel? It is the Stanley Hotel. Which forgotten U.S. policy once allowed people to pay their taxes using barrels of whiskey? The whiskey tax, the liquor levy, or the Spirits Act? It was the whiskey tax. Which unexpected reason led to an entire American town being built underground instead of above ground? Was it extreme heat, dust storms, or a gold mine collapse? It was dust storms. Which unusual event caused an American baseball game to be paused for nearly 20 minutes in 1974? Was it a bee invasion, a UFO sighting, or an earthquake tremor? It was a bee invasion. Play through it. Which rare government mistake led to an entire American state being left off official maps for decades? Was it Oklahoma, Nevada, or Wyoming? It was Wyoming. Did nobody notice? Which American city once enforced a law requiring residents to always carry at least one bulletproof vest? Was it Tombstone, Dodge City, or was it Deadwood? It was the city of Dodge City. Which bizarre reason caused an official U.S. presidential portrait to be burned before it was ever displayed? Was it too lifelike? Was it an unflattering pose? Or did someone get paint poisoning? It was an unflattering pose. What American legal practice led people to declare bankruptcy after living in a shack for 6 months? Was it the Shack Law, the Desertion Act, or the Shantytown Provision? It was the Shack Law. Which strange American law once required men to bring a rifle to church on Sundays for safety? Was it Virginia, Massachusetts, or South Carolina? Virginia required it. Which U.S. city built a bridge that mysteriously led to nowhere and remained unused for years? Portland, St. Louis, or New Orleans? Well, it had to go somewhere, right? It was St. Louis. Which unexpected material was secretly used in some early American highways to make roads last longer? Was it oyster shells, ground glass, or cotton fibers? They used oyster shells. Which forgotten U.S. plan once proposed launching enormous mirrored satellites to light up cities at night? Was it Project Sunbeam, Operation Mirror, or Project Znamia? It was Project Znamia. Which major American monument was once mistakenly constructed facing the wrong direction before being corrected? Was it Mount Rushmore, the Statue of Liberty, or the Lincoln Memorial? It was the Lincoln Memorial. Which U.S. town had an underground coal fire that burned continuously for decades, forcing people to relocate? Was it Centralia, Fairmont, or Carbon Hill? It was Centralia. Which U.S. military experiment once involved using pigeons to guide missiles toward enemy targets? Was it Operation Bird Strike, Project Pigeon, or the Avian Targeting Program? It was Project Pigeon. Which strange event led to an American train being buried under snow for nearly a month before rescue? Was it the blizzard of 1888? Was it the Great Whiteout? Or was it the Ice Storm Express? It was the blizzard of 1888. Which U.S. state once passed a law banning billboards entirely to preserve scenic beauty? Was it Vermont, Oregon, or Washington? It was Vermont. It's beautiful. I see why. Which forgotten American custom once involved sending babies through the postal service as an inexpensive delivery method? The Parcel Baby Act, mail order infants, or the Child Parcel Post? Child Parcel Post. Now you know where babies come from. Which bizarre event caused the entire U.S. Congress to flee Washington, D.C. in a panic in 1814? Was it a massive flood, the British invasion, or earthquake tremors? It was the British invasion. Which American town was once entirely purchased by a single person, turning it into their private property? Was it Buford, Wye, or Hell? It was Buford. Which forgotten American law once allowed people to legally avoid arrest by outrunning the police on foot? The Freedom Chase, the Hot Pursuit Law, or the 5-block law? It was the 5-block law. Which unexpected reason caused the U.S. government to ban sliced bread for a short period in 1943? Was it a metal shortage? Was it war rationing? Or was it public health concerns? It was war rationing. Which American lake suddenly and mysteriously drained overnight, leaving locals baffled about what had happened? Was it Lost Lake, Devil's Kettle, or Disappearing Waters? It was Lost Lake. Gone. Which historic U.S. lighthouse was once inexplicably moved inland without dismantling its original structure? Was it Cape Hatteras, Portland Head, or Montauk Point? It was Cape Hatteras. Which unusual competition was popular in 19th century America, involving contestants standing still for hours? Endurance staring, static standing, or freeze walking? That would be static standing. Which American city hosted the first ever World Fair in 1851, attracting visitors from around the globe? Philadelphia, New York, or Chicago? And that would be Philadelphia. Which forgotten incident led to a major U.S. city being overrun by thousands of escaped circus animals? The Great Escape of 1872, the circus train wreck, or a wild stampede? That would be the Great Escape of 1872. Which odd historical event caused an entire American town's residents to suddenly flee without explanation? The Vanishing Township, the Roanoke Mystery, or the Ghost Town Exodus? It was the Roanoke Mystery. Which U.S. town was built entirely on a bridge? making one of the strangest settlements in America? Was it Walker, Cisco, or Bridgeport? It was Bridgeport. Which American highway has mysteriously glowing sections due to leftover materials from World War II experiments? Is it Interstate 70, the Atomic Highway, or Route 66? It's Route 66. Which U.S. location had a secret government bunker disguised as a hotel resort during the Cold War? The Greenbrier, Mount Weather, or Cheyenne Lodge? That would be the Greenbrier. What unusual event led to an American town being covered in jellyfish after a storm? Was it ocean surge, the Jellyfish Blizzard, or the rain of stingers? It was the Jellyfish Blizzard. Which forgotten American law once made it illegal for people to whistle on Sundays in certain states? The Quiet Act, Blue Laws, or Sabbath silence? That would be Blue Laws. Which U.S. city had a notorious rat war in the 1800s that led to mass poisoning of rodents? Chicago, New York, or Boston? And that would be New York. Which American town was legally declared an independent nation by mistake, but still operated as usual? The Republic of Maloia, Ardentia, or Absaroka? It was Absaroka. Which forgotten U.S. disaster caused a flood of molasses to sweep through an entire neighborhood in 1919? Was it a syrup surge, the Boston molasses flood, or the Great Sugar Wave? The Boston molasses flood. Which American war nearly started over a pig that accidentally wandered into foreign territory in 1859? Was it the Hog War, the Pig War, or the Fence Conflict? It was the Pig War. Which unexpected discovery was made inside the Lincoln Memorial during routine maintenance work in the 1920s? Did they find a hidden chamber, a time capsule, or a secret tunnel? They found a hidden chamber. Which forgotten American policy once allowed citizens to claim free land simply by fencing it off? Was it the Fence Act, the Homestead Act, or the Boundary Law? That would be the Homestead Act. What bizarre historical event inspired a U.S. town to hold an annual festival for a frozen dead man? The Ice Corpse Festival, the Frozen Dead Guy Days, or the Cold Burial Parade? It was the Frozen Dead Guy Days. Which American city once accidentally sent a false nuclear attack warning, causing mass panic among residents? Was it Honolulu, San Diego, or Miami? And that American city was Honolulu. Which U.S. lake has an underground drain that mysteriously swallows water without filling up? Phantom Lake, Devil's Kettle, or Bottomless Lake? And that would be Devil's Kettle. And now question 100. Which American landmark had a hidden speakeasy that operated secretly during the Prohibition era? Was it the Statue of Liberty? Was it the Empire State Building? Or was it Mount Rushmore? Who was using an American landmark for such nefarious purposes? They were using the Empire State Building. All right. Now that we've learned all that, you did an amazing job. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and put down your score in the comments, please. And check out these videos right here. They're also a lot of fun and fun to make. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.